Hey y'all, welcome to the Standing on Business podcast, where ambition meets action. From career moves to life lessons,
our podcast is dedicated to supporting you as you navigate both the personal and professional growth journey,
ultimately giving you the confidence to always stand in your truth. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Standing on Business podcast. I'm your co-host Amari.
And I'm Bianca.
Today's episode is titled No Child Left Behind because education is a topic that is deeply personal to both Bianca and I. I think it is a very fair statement to say that we both view education as a lifeline. And so we thought, what better way to bring that conversation to the table other than our two special guests today.
Welcome.
Welcome, ladies.
Thank you for having us.
No, thank you guys.
Yes, thank you so much for coming.
Yes.
Excited to be
Hanging
here
out with us today.
Thank you.
So today we have with us Miss Debbie Broadnax, and we
Hello.
also have Miss Dorojen Evans, both of whom are educators in the primary school setting in Metro Atlanta. Also very significant to the title of the episode of No Child Left Behind.
Yes.
Because that was definitely, some groundwork that was left for our school system and something that carries true to today. So with that, we really just want to kind of jump into getting to know a little bit about you all and your backgrounds and how you got to be who you are and where you started and all the things. So typically, I'll say what we like to do on our show is start with an elevator pitch. So whoever is feeling, like they want to lead that piece can go first. But if you don't mind just giving us a little bit about who you are and what you do and all of the things.
I'm glad to be here, first of all. Thank you for the invitation. My name is Debbie Broadnax, and just a little bit about me. I am a wife and a mother. I've been married for almost 33 years. I have two children,
Yes.
Ryan and Sydney. Ryan is, Ryan. Ryan is 30 years old, and Sydney will be 25 next week. I have been in education for 25 years. I graduated from the University of Georgia, go Bulldogs, go Dogs, with a psychology degree. I worked for the Department of Family and Children's Services for almost 10 years and decided that I needed to do something different with my life. That was great work, but I felt that there was a different calling on my life, and I chose education. And so I've been an educator for 25 years. I taught elementary school for 7 years. I taught third grade for 1 year, second grade for 6 years. I was an assistant principal for 6 years, and this is my 13th year as a principal of an elementary school.
That is so beautiful.
Thank you.
Oh my
it's,
gosh.
it's good work. It's good work.
We are blessed to have you with us.
Thank you.
So thank you for
Thank
making
you.
the time.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, everyone. Dorojen Evans here. I am an assistant principal and I serve in the Metro Atlanta area. I have my bachelor's degree in psychology, just like Ms. Broadnax, and I have my master's in elementary education. I'm a person of faith. And whatever career I end up in, I knew that I wanted to be in service of others. So what better way than to be in service of children and their families? Every day I get to work hand in hand with families and make sure I support their scholars in the best way possible. And also serving adults, serving teachers to make sure they are equipped to support scholars, and I like to say grow their brains and just grow them as whole, well-rounded people. We teach the whole child. It's not just about learning to read and write and calculate equations, but we want you to be a good human, right? Wherever you end up after you leave us, we want you to be able to be successful, whether you choose a career where you have to go and get an advanced degree, or if you're like, hey, I love art, I want to serve the world with my art and show beautiful things. So I think of my job as a way that I serve. It's not just a way where I make money, and educators know no one's in the field to get rich. That's not what's going to happen. But every day I go to work to be in service of others, and that's why I chose this career.
No, I love that. I think it's so parallel to Bianca and I with our backgrounds being in healthcare. And we've talked about this a little bit off camera today of the professions that we're in are kind of things that you're called to. It's a matter of purpose and passion and finding what your role in that sector will be, but knowing that you're tied to something of servitude and kind of obedience. We're all faith-based here. And it's like when God calls you, you answer the call and you just move your feet in the way that he's ordered your steps. And so before I ping it to Bianca for an icebreaker question, I wanted to ask just for a moment of sincerity from you two, and I guess just dive a little deep, because this might end up being a little deep today. But just starting off light, I think in touching on what you mentioned, Dorojen, of like this being a passion for a purpose-driven thing for you, and obviously for you too, Miss Debbie, what is, I guess, to start, the thing that wakes you up to fight for your students each day? Like, we know being in healthcare, we've seen a lot of different things. We always say like we're trauma bonded. We've
been through a lot over the years.
Yeah, and like I think it's made us in some ways a little morbid, because like we have a mantra of like, well, if no one's dying, everything's okay, because that's our reality some days. And so when we have days like that, we've had to call on our why of like, why would I come back to this? Why would I do this? And I think it's a similar story that can be told in the education space. And so I would love to hear about that, I think, just to set the tone, and then maybe pivot into something more light with an icebreaker question, and then go through a couple more segments with you all.
What makes me wake up every day for children is actually the children, making sure that our kids have access to a quality education and an education that they deserve. It doesn't matter what the color of their skin is. It doesn't matter where they live. If they have a disability, all children have the right to that education. We need to be able to support them in whatever their dreams are. Just like Dorojen said, whether they want to be an artist or in the healthcare profession or maybe an educator, it's our job to be able to support them and to be able to teach them in ways that they learn, because guess what? We're all unique. We learn in different ways, and it's our job to be able to tap into not only their natural giftings, their natural talents, but also how they learn. I call it sit and get. I feel like those days are gone of sitting and getting, right?
Yeah.
We want kids not only be, we don't want them to be compliant learners. We want our students to be engaged learners. So getting them up, moving, learning in ways where they make connections, and to have a love for school, because to do this, you really need to enjoy school, especially if they're going to go on to secondary education. It's oppressed. It is oppressed. And I will say that as when they are young, that is when I feel like we need to really captivate them and capture them, because as they get older, all those engaging learning experiences, sometimes they kind of dwindle away because we're about business. So I want them to really be able to love elementary school and want to come to school and look forward to exploring and learning. So that's what gets me up.
I love that. I love it too, because I think you're so malleable at that age. And you kind of touch on to some of the pillars of why we even have this podcast, of like our show is indicative and representative of corporate, entrepreneurial, and creative. And I think there's a space for all of that. And it starts when you're young. I'm still the same person that I was at 5, crazy and sassy and talkative, which is why we have a show now. But no, it's like you need to know the individual student and be able to tap in and assess them and guide them and nurture them in the way that they need to learn. It's not always going to be that one size fits all.
Absolutely.
I would say, and everybody learns so many different ways. And for you to even touch on, we have to put that to the forefront and really show that, like, hey, no, as administrators, educators, we are thinking about that, especially in today's time. So can't wait to hear more about y'all's stories, especially because y'all are true servants to the community for everybody, not just the children and their family as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dorojen, for you, what is your why? Why are we getting up and going back to school every day when the kids are throwing blocks and might be crazy?
Not too much on my kids.
Not too much on the kids. We love the kids.
For me, like I stated earlier, I'm here to serve the kids, but also it's a form of activism. I work at a Title I school. My kids, they're counted out from the moment they're born. People put expectations on them that they're not going to achieve, that they can't achieve. So I'm there to show them that they are capable, that they are worthy of having a great quality education, and that they can be whatever they want to be. Because we know that if you stifle a kid, you keep them in a box, right?
Correct.
So education opens up the mind, right? And like I was saying, it's not just about math, reading, writing. It's bigger than that. It's about these kids knowing that they are capable, they're powerful, they can do whatever they want to do. And that starts in the classroom. It starts at home. We support the babies. That's what I call them. And we also support their families, right?
Yeah.
So the school, it's trying not to be political here, but it is social justice. It really is. The school building is more than just where kids come to learn. Sometimes for my babies, it's where they get their meal, right? It's where they get the only hug they're going to get until the next time we see them. It's where they get love, is where they get that social emotional learning, because they may or may not get that. So for me, it's a form of activism. If my baby can learn, if my babies can learn and achieve, I'm already showing the naysayers that what you have to say about this community is not a fact. Right. Come see about us, because we are doing good work on a daily basis, and they deserve excellent, amazing things as any other kid in a different zip code or tax bracket or circumstance. They deserve the same.
No, I think that's very powerful. And like, I don't think that's an adjective often paired with educators, is advocates and activism. Yes. So like, kudos to both of you for like being that, you know, that image for people to, one, look up to you that probably will be future educators. And then also, you know, take that back, because you are, like you said, y'all are empowering people. So it is, I'm inspired already. We just get started.
And I would say, even for you, Dorojen, I feel like you spoke directly over my life. So for me, I grew up in East Atlanta. Shout out to Zone 6. So I was born there. Let me not say grew up, because then, you know, the United Atlanta police are going to come out and get me. But for like 0 to 5, I grew up in what would have been a Title I environment for me. Luckily, fortunately, my mom was able to secure her first house in Cobb County. And so my matriculation through primary school and up, you know, through middle school and high school looked a lot differently. But to that point, had it not been for people on both ends of the spectrum that were there for me, I don't know if I would be this person. And you say a lot, Dorojen, in saying of like, sometimes people just need to know that it's possible. Yes. And you also need the support, because you are, I think we talked about this in a prior episode, Bianca, of social determinants of health ultimately lead into your quality of life. And so to your point of having that mindset of activism on the forefront of, hey, this is the root of what I'm trying to fix and what I'm trying to help mitigate and, you know, show up and adhere to for these students. I don't know. I just feel like I'm a walking testament of your purpose. And so I hope that we continue to scale this platform and have more conversations like this. And even, I think, reinvigorate people's passions for education. I think, and we can get into this later in the episode, but I think people, similar to in medicine, like there's a shortage of nurses and primary care physicians, like there's a shortage of educators.
A big shortage.
Yeah. Hopefully in hearing more about you all's backgrounds and what you do and the way that it fulfills you, you know, we inspire the young mind of someone who might be in middle school right now or in college right now, who's trying to figure out, do I really want to go into education? The answer is yes, you do.
I'll say these are two perfect examples.
This is why.
No. And I know we're about to jump into the icebreaker, but I feel like, Amari, with me and you, we have opposite experiences. So I started out in more of the private school, Catholic school, and then for high school, I switched to public school, which would be considered similar to your school that you're referencing, and seeing just how, obviously it was like different, all types of matriculation to this public school, but I came from a private area, but then seeing just all the, you know, every elementary school has, or schools have stereotypes. So seeing like the people who came from this elementary school versus this one, and just seeing the zip codes do matter, the streets do matter. We talked about this a little bit off screen, but I can't, you know, it's sad, and I'm glad people are focusing on it to really highlight, hey, we want to give everybody quality education. So yes, let's jump into this icebreaker. So we are gonna see, we just want to break the ice a little bit with y'all, and I feel like we already have, because y'all are giving us great insights to your
the energy is amazing.
I know,
love it today.
insight into your backgrounds. But can you tell us, was there a moment in your own education that changed your life? So whether it's a teacher, a lesson, or just a hardship that you faced that probably made you pick this field and go into this pathway.
As I mentioned earlier, I majored in psychology, and I worked for Family and Children's Services for 10 years. And my mom was an educator. My mom, she's still living, but she's retired, of course. My mom taught high school when I was in elementary school, and my elementary school was in front of her high school. And so when school was out, I would walk over to her school. That's when we lived in South Carolina. We moved to Georgia, and my mom taught middle school. So I always had that seed in me.
Yeah, you saw the representation.
I did see the representation in my mother. My mother was an amazing teacher. You know that you're an amazing teacher when you have students to come back and tell you that how much they enjoy being in your class. And I had an opportunity to witness that on more than one occasion with my mom. So after working for DFACS for 10 years, I enjoyed that work, but I just felt like there was something else that I needed to do. And that is where education came from for me. And we talked about being women of faith, allowing God to open doors for me, to guide my steps. And it did lead me down that path. And I can tell you that it has been a great journey. It has really been a great journey. And there's some things that happened that it couldn't have been anything but him. However, I do want to speak. I hope we'll get to tap into that a little bit later about our journey and how it got us to this point. But as a student, I was always stronger in reading and literacy. My mom was an English teacher. She taught English. And that was always my strength. And I was the kid who always said, oh my gosh, I'm not good at math. It became a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like it just was not my strength until I got to high school. It took that long for me to feel comfortable about some portions of math. It's still not my happy place.
Mine either.
Place, right? But I had a teacher by the name of Donna Bojo. I went to Cedartown High School, and Miss Bojo was a wonderful, wonderful teacher. I had her for algebra, and the way that she taught algebra to me just unlocked whatever I feel like was blocking me from being successful in math, or at least feeling like I could be successful in math. I had success in her classroom, and I ended up writing a paper about her when I was working on my graduate degrees, one of them, and it turned out that I ended up meeting someone that knew Miss Bojo was related to her. And I told them about this paper, and they actually gave that paper to Miss Bojo because I wrote about her and how she was the teacher who made a difference for me in the area of math. So it can be, when you think that you don't make a difference, you do. You do have an impact. She impacted my life in that area of math. And I had other teachers along the way that were great, but Miss Bojo will always be special for me because I never felt like I was smart in math. But she helped me to feel like I was smart in math.
She empowered you.
Yeah, she did. Yeah. She did.
I love that.
So,
we have a saying, too, of like perception is reality.
It is.
And it's just so funny how sometimes when someone just moves you from this angle to that one, what the possibilities are.
Yes.
So that is so beautiful. And I appreciate you speaking to that, because even just the fact that we're having a conversation about children and their minds are so formidable and malleable and forming, it's the power of the mind of you can do anything that you set your mind out to do. You just have to believe it. And sometimes that just comes with the right influences coming at the right times. But if you believe it, you can achieve it.
And Amari, it's about a growth mindset.
Yes.
And I know that, that's something that we talk about a lot, is having that growth mindset, the power of the word yet.
Yes.
I can't do this yet. Right?
Yep.
And it's powerful. It absolutely is.
And then a saying I kind of have as like a quote for my life is just, a mind expanded will never go back.
Right.
So once all the wonderful information you're giving your students, I know they are valuing it, and it might not seem like it, but their minds are not going to go back. They're always going to be expanding, they're always going to be moving forward because of you all.
Right.
Yes.
I was gonna say, Dojo, for you, what is your moment or the thing? Like, we talked about your why a little bit, but what was that one thing? Because we grew up together.
Yes.
So that's a whole nother thing. I think both of us are looking at each other like the Spider-Man meme. Like, how did we get here? Who would have thought?
Right.
Not me. For me, not for you. You were
We're the
always
real
going to be great in somebody. It took me a little while to get it together, y'all. But what was the thing for you, Dorojen? Because I don't think I ever even saw you going into education and climbing as high, as fast as you have.
For me, it's just being stubborn, right? So I always knew two things. I love to learn and I love kids. Like, even as a kid, I was the kid that was babysitting all the other kids. So that's how it started. But then you get people, like, I had teachers telling me not to be a teacher, right? You won't make any money. It's hard work. The kids don't listen, all the things, right? So I was like, I love kids. I know I don't want to be a doctor. I don't want to be a pediatrician. I have this, I'm going to call it a gift, leaning on my faith, right? I know how to engage kids, make them listen, make them love on them. That's like, I feel like that's the basics of teaching, is that relationship. So I was like, why am I going to listen to people tell me not to be a teacher? I'm going to do what I know deep down inside is what I'm supposed to do. And also just trying to be what I didn't have in some spaces of my educational journey. Similar to Debbie, math was not my thing, but I never had anybody who would say, hey, like, you're very bright, you're making all these A's and B's, but then when you come to math, you have C's and D's. Let me take you under my wing. Nobody did that for me. I kind of had to figure it out. And eventually, my parents had to put some things in place to get me on track, and it all worked out. But not one teacher pulled me to the side and said, let me help you with this. So I was like, I can change that. I can work on that. So that was that stubbornness in me. Everybody is telling me what I'm not supposed to do. So I'm gonna go ahead and see what it's about. And now here we are. And I truly do feel like I'm in the right place, doing the right thing, making a difference brick by brick, one foot in front of the other at a time. So mine was just like being stubborn. You told me not to do it. You told me it's not the thing I'm supposed to be doing. So I'm definitely going to try it out.
Yeah. That sounds more like the friend that
Yes. I was about to say,
but
Dorojen.
You do that so well.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
No, I was about to say, Dorojen, I think we're very similar. With my path in healthcare is not linear at all. And we talked about this in a previous episode. And so I was very, very stubborn, and just, I know that this is where I want to go, and I know the different avenues that are just kind of a little bit untraditional. And so I was just super stubborn and going into that route. And so I definitely identify with you. Yes. With sometimes you just have to put blinders on and like, where you're going, and it led you to amazing space.
Yeah, definitely. Yes.
And I'll say, I think for me, it's kind of the opposite. I think I landed in my career roles kind of by happenstance of just wanting to be a sponge and learn and do the work. And then me doing the work, people were like, oh, you're kind of good at this. Maybe you should keep going in this direction. But I say that to say I can really appreciate, even in childhood, the sense of self that you've had. And I think that is super important. No, okay, we can do this offline. We can get our tissue. But no, it's important because I think we both have always had that of like knowing who we are and being very strong-willed and strong-minded and strong-speaking women, but that look differently on two ends of the spectrum. And so I think for you, you've landed beautifully. And I say that as your friend, not just us in this professional space today, but I love how life has turned out for you because I now get to see how you get to empower and inspire our youth. And I think that is so powerful. And to your point, all of the naysayers and haters, it's like, what y'all gonna say now? Because she's doing it and doing fabulous. And I can't wait for us to maybe one day sit at this table when you've reached, the tenure in your career as Ms. Debbie, and it's us, being interviewed by someone that's now entering their career, and they're asking you questions of how you've like taken over Metro Atlanta as space, and you've inspired them, whether it's one of your students that comes back in 10 years and it's like, Miss Evans, do you know that you did this? And for you, it might have been another Tuesday, but for them, it made all the difference in their life.
Right.
So
Right.
I actually want to segue that point into a segment that we have called From Point A to Point B.
Yes.
Okay.
But basically, we just ask a couple of questions that detail your journey of how you got started,
Yes.
and, you know, just getting some more insight into where you are now. And so we've talked a bit about influence today, kind of top down. But I want to talk about it from bottom up and just ask you guys, you know, what are some lessons that you guys have gotten from the classroom, whether that was through direct education oversight or if it was more in the administrative sector. What is, you know, maybe a story from a student that has either made you laugh or made you cry or made you redefine what you thought you knew about your profession? And what did that look like? And
Right.
why did it stick with you? And who's that special kid? But would love to hear more about how the kids have kind of helped to mold you.
Yeah. I can start with this one. Mine is a little bit more serious, but I had the, unfortunate experience of losing a scholar to gun violence. She was 8 years old, and 4th of July, I believe it was 2021, because we were either deep in the COVID pandemic or freshly out. And that moment was very heavy, but it really cemented for me that the time I have with the kids is the time I have with the kids, right?
Yeah.
So I don't have time to play. I don't have time to have an off day. I don't have time to not show up as my best self for them, because I had her in 2nd grade, and that was her last educational experience, right? And not to get all serious and deep, but when the kids leave my classroom or my school building now as an administrator, that might be it, right? So what did I do with the time? Did I grow them in the best way possible, or did I not do my best? Because as I reflected, I'm like, man, that was amazing. That was my class where March 2020, that was it, right? I never saw her again.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it was extremely difficult. Went through some woes, didn't know if I wanted to be in that space anymore, because what is losing an 8-year-old, you know? Extremely difficult. But I carry that with me, because now, as an assistant principal, I think the people who I lead, they will tell you, she don't play, but she loves me and she loves the kids. You know what I'm saying? Because we don't have time to waste. Our babies could be here today and gone tomorrow, so we have to do our best by them. So to your question, that is kind of like, it just propelled me, right? To the way I lead others, the way I lead scholars, the way I show up is as if I have to give them the best, because we could go on summer break and that could be it.
Yeah.
So
No, that resonates for sure. I think we were in high school when my dad passed, so you were there for that for me, and we touched on it on another episode, so we won't get too sentimental, but I do think, like, when you experience unnatural canon events, it just changes you.
Yes.
Like, on a
100%.
molecular level,
Yeah.
it just changes who you are and how you carry yourself as you move forward through that. And I think to that point, when you experience something so unnatural, you go through, the journey of processing that and healing from it. But ultimately, the upside and the silver lining of that is you become someone supernatural. And I think the way that you look out into life becomes more intentional. You value time differently. You value your relations differently. And so while I hate hearing that, and definitely extend my condolences to that family and to your school family, because that is something that, even for us, we lost Rajon. Our freshman year was his senior year. For anyone who doesn't know, we went to McEachern as our alma mater. And our freshman year, we lost a scholar within our student body to a domestic violence situation as well. And even that, we still say keep 5 alive. But it changes us. And you grow from it, but you're never quite the same. And I think what you realize is, how do I continue to grow in the best ways and to honor that situation?
Yes.
So I hate that that's your experience, but I love the light that you carry from it and the torch that you have been able to, set a light off or a candle off for each student that's come behind that. So
yeah, and I was about to say also supporting other people in the future, like even though you're able to help somebody the next time,
right.
God forbid, but like you're able to help them the next time and be that light, just like Amara said.
Yeah.
So that's a very powerful story.
And I think the word I was looking for was urgency. It didn't come out because I'm not crying on this podcast today. I'm trying, it's urgent and important work, and it's so.
And that structure your students feel, I'm sure they may not like it today, but they will love it in the future.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah. And we say that of like, you don't necessarily see it in the moment, but like children especially, they appreciate structure.
They do.
Like you may not feel it when they're like, I don't want to go to bed, I don't want to take my bed. And that's more so the home piece of it. But they appreciate a schedule. It keeps them in line. It gives them the boundaries. It gives them something rhythmic to stick to of like, I know when I'm going to get my snack. I know when we're going to go to recess. I know when I'm getting on that bus to go home and watch my cartoons.
Right.
So no, 110%. I feel it and agree.
Yeah, and I feel like they probably see you as a very reliable person in their life.
Yeah.
And that's important for children to have.
Definitely.
Yeah, because we don't know what they go home to. And you might be that like North Star for them of like, okay, I know if no one else has my back, even if I'm in trouble, I can go to Miss Evans and she'll hold it down. So no, that's super nice.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So we definitely talked about the why. We talked about your journeys and starting. But also we know that y'all are in a very stressful industry, and very stressful field. Y'all are a service to the community. Y'all are relied upon by so many people.
Put some respect on the educators. Put some respect on their names.
Yes. I'm like, we need a whole wellness episode just for educators.
For that. Yeah.
Yes.
Part 2 coming soon.
No. And so I would love to ask, was there a moment where you almost walked away from this work? And if so, what pulled you back in?
I can't say that there was a moment that I actually wanted to walk away from it. There have been days that I want to put my purse on my shoulder and just leave and not come back. And I think that's pretty typical because some days are hard. That experience was difficult. Right. We have children in our buildings who have experienced trauma. And in our positions as administrators, we had a conversation off camera about how the buck really stops with the principal of the building.
Right.
Yeah.
And so everyone, looks to me. And when we do experience traumatic incidents, it's hard. And I have to be the one that's strong. And I'm a very relational leader. So I love my people. I love them hard. I love my kids. I love my families. I love very hard. And so I have to be strong for them. Now, have I ever cried in front of my staff? I have, because guess what? I'm human.
Right.
Yeah.
But I can't say that there's a time that I want to walk away from this work, because I do love what I do. I love my job. Once again, I love my students, and they keep me going. Every day is different. Yes. I never know what's going to happen.
Right.
I have some stories that are just absolutely mind-blowing, and one day I think I'm going to put them all into a book, and it's going to be, you can't make this stuff up.
Exactly.
New York's best time seller
always. I think it will be. So I can't say that it's work that I've ever really considered walking away from. Are there some things that I would love to change? Absolutely.
Yes.
But it's work that is needed.
Yes.
It's needed. Our children, it sounds very cliche, but they're our future.
Yes.
And they need us, and they need someone to advocate for them. They need a voice.
Yeah.
It's important to give them a voice as well. I have a student council in my building. Yeah. And I'm passionate about that. It's for my 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade students. And when I see that we are raising up a generation of leaders, they are some leader-bound little people, like with great ideas, great thoughts, and a great work ethic. And that makes me excited about our future with our kids. So I've never wanted to walk away from it. There are days I want to go home. Yes. And there's some days that I don't feel like going.
Yes.
But for the most part, I love what I do.
No,
Yeah.
I
Yes,
love that,
that's
and I
great.
think it's a true testament that you're exactly where you need to be,
Yeah.
Exactly.
doing what you
Yeah.
need to do. Because what you mentioned, as far as being the person where everyone brings all the problems to, and you're the person to sort it out, it reminds me of when Bianca and I were in operations.
Yeah.
In the
Okay.
healthcare field, and I'm not in operations anymore, so
Me
I
either.
definitely had my day where I was like, let's pack up this briefcase and pivot
Right.
to something else. Still healthcare, but
Mhm.
I'm now an individual contributor. I'm in project management.
We both are.
Much different feel
Got it.
than before. And so with that, I think I would love to segue into our next point, which is a segment called The Hard Truths.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you kind of segued us there nicely. So, Ms. Ebby, I want to start with you because, too, you have the tenure to kind of give the insight into kind of the landscape shifts that we've seen in education. You mentioned that you have 2 children, one of which is 30, the other will soon be 25. That's technically 2 different generations. So you have a millennial and you have a Gen Z.
Yes.
But you've also educated through those
Yes.
generational shifts. And I think now we're in what, Gen Alpha, Gen Beta? I don't even
Yeah,
know.
I think
it's
It just keeps,
Gen Alpha.
Does.
yeah, we're in Roman numerals with
Right.
kids now. But I wanted to ask you, with what you've seen both in your personal and your professional, what is something that keeps you kind of up at night or keeps you thinking, keeps your brain running at night when it comes to the current state of education compared to previous forms and models? And then I guess with where we are present day, what you can kind of project and see with the writing on the wall, what is that thing? And then I guess to that, I guess the next piece is if we think about any inequities in funding or resources or whatever that may be, what are your thoughts about how we can be creative to fill those gaps in the future?
I love this question. And I think the thing that keeps me up at night is just what you are absolutely talking about right now. And it's generational, and I'm going to call it generational gaps. I had a conversation, again, off camera. I can't remember who I was talking to, but when I grew up, it was you get a job, you stay on that job, you draw a pension, you have insurance, and you retire. And that is what we did.
Yeah.
That is what I'm doing. That's how I've lived my life. My children are very different. And I'm not going to say just my children, but I think that the impact of social media right now,
Yes.
that is so
Yes.
real to them. You said earlier, a person's perception is their reality. That is what they see. And they look at all the glamour of social media. And I don't feel like children nowadays want to work for anyone. A lot of them just do not. They want to be entrepreneurs, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's some very successful entrepreneurs out there, but I think that there are things that you need to have in place before you do that. Like, I worry about, do you have health insurance? What if something happens?
Yeah.
You need to have health insurance. You need to make sure that you have a certain amount of money, saved. So when things are not going well, that you can have something to rely on.
Yes.
I'm not sure if a lot of children now even want to consider college.
I've heard a lot of people aren't.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And there are lots of great careers out there where you don't have to go to college. You might want to have a trade, and that's wonderful too.
Yes.
So those are the things for me that I would say keep me up at night. Like, what can we do in school? Careers have changed so much. There's so many more careers out there right now, and making sure that kids have access to it. Once again, that's why I think we need to tap into like our natural giftings and our talents and things like that, because there's so many careers for if you are an artistic person, if you have an engineering mindset, scientific, all those things. We need to tap into what it is that you're passionate about, because again, this might sound cliche, but they say when you are working in your passion, if you're doing something in your passion, you'll never work a day in your life.
Yes.
Correct.
When you are working in your passion. And so I think it's really important. At my last school, we were an arts integration school.
Amazing.
I was able to see the natural gifts that my students had. They were very, very talented, and they were hams. They loved to be performed. And so how could we marry those gifts, those talents, with the standards that they had to learn? And so we started this initiative, Arts Integration. So kids are learning their fine art standards simultaneously with their content area standards. So they are learning through dance, through theater, visual arts, and through music. And it is something to see. It is amazing. At my current school, we are a STEAM school. We were STEM. We just got certified in STEAM. We added the A because we're speaking to the whole child. And that's what we have to do. We have to meet kids where they are. And once again, I'm sounding redundant, but give them the desire to love school and to be able to find what it is that gets them going so that they want to go on and go after careers so that they can work in their passion.
I love your answer. I feel like it was so beautiful. It was profound and it was eloquently stated. But I also think you really spoke to the mission of why we even did this podcast, and understanding that, like, we probably need to be more creative in how we're being resourceful and getting this access to the kids that are coming up now, because it is different. I think for us, we grew up, you know, touching grass, going outside, and like, you better not waste my good air, you know, are you in or out? But we grew up with the surge in the beginning of social media. So like when we were in elementary school, there was no Facebook or MySpace or Twitter or phones. But by the time we got to middle school, that stuff had started to come, and now it's exploded into what it is today. So I think for us, we have the blessing of seeing the world on both ends of like, before the big technological age and boom, like I remember my mom had a pager and a, you know, all of the things in a bag phone. Like, you know, I remember being in the front seat and being my mom's MapQuest for GPS. But it's a different time. And to your point, does everybody have a traditional path? Not really. We have an amazing production team here today. Their jobs are fun and fulfilling and creative, and they get to work that muscle, but it is still a job. And I think even in that, there's deference that needs to be given there of like, if you want to be a content creator, or if you want to go out and be an engineer or a rapper or whatever, that's fine, but you need to know your business, and then you need to be able to stand on it. Like, you know, how have you set yourself up to be? How have you set yourself up to be successful in whatever industry it is? And then what's your strategy for sustainability?
That part. Preparing for your future.
Like you can do anything, like we said, believe and achieve, but baby, what's the plan? And I love that you say that, and that in your school systems, you're gearing students up for that, because I think you're providing the solution of what we need right now, which is evaluating the whole child. And we say this even in primary care, like within health specialty, of how can we create the most multidisciplinary, holistic, comprehensive care plan for you, to where we're not just fixing one thing. It's a full comprehensive care plan where we've brought in any specialists, we've brought in your primary care provider, if there's a nurse practitioner, you know, like all the hands that are going to touch you along the continuum of care. What does that look like for us to come and band together? And I think it's really nice. And it is also very like, I feel like I can breathe because I don't have children, but it is nice to know that work is being done on the education side, because I think there's also a shift too in like family planning. Like a lot of people our age are like,
not having children.
I'm like, I have a dog. Bluey's great, you know, and it's because some of the perils and the shifts that we've seen in education of like, well, do we want to send kids into this world? But I think in talking to the two of you, there's definitely some hope and some good work happening. So thank you. Thank you.
I do have a point. I love that you said they definitely need a foundation. I had recently did a presentation for 3rd to 5th graders on content creation. I don't have children, so I have not been around like little ones in a little bit, but me doing that presentation and then them raising their hands like, oh, I already have Twitch, I already do Instagram, I make money through this. I'm like, to your point, so many of them really want to be entrepreneurs, and it's like I'm so happy to hear that you are emerging that whatever they need standard for the state, and then also what are their passions and really trying to ignite that. I do want to ask, like, as we talked about the hard truths of education, and especially today, I know like funding and just resources can be limited. As you talked about your program, is there any advice you could give to like a principal in another state or a teacher in another state that wants to do these type of programs that you're doing?
At the time, I was at a title school. My former school was a Title I school. And so because of ESSA, we were eventually able to use some of those funds for professional development, which was great. The school where I am now, we have a foundation. I also have a cell tower, which is a blessing. I don't know if you know about cell towers, but they will put those on school campuses and they pay us. And then we give a portion of what I get per month to the district. So schools without cell towers can write grants and have access to that money too. But I have cell tower. And it's very important also to partner with businesses.
Okay.
You know, businesses want to pour into schools and they often need write-offs, tax write-offs. And so partner with businesses. People want to help children. I have found that they want to invest in children because, again, they are our future. They're going to be taking care of us one day. And so those are the things that I can suggest. You know, it depends on the school where you are and what kind of funding is available for you. But those are the types of funds that I have used over the years to be able to provide professional development for my teachers, because you can't take on any kind of new initiative without training your teachers. You know, it's just not willy-nilly, as they say. They have to be trained.
Checks and balances.
It's checks and balances. So, you know, those are the types of funds that I've used in the past. Had access to.
So you taught me something new with the cell towers. I did not.
I had no idea.
Listen, and I have to say, I have a couple of my colleagues. We joke about it. I have one in particular who just hates on me for that cell tower. Just hating on me about that cell tower.
No,
but it's a blessing.
Don't play or hate, appreciate it.
No, thank you so much for that advice.
Sure.
Dorojen, I do want to get to you too. What keeps you up at night with the current state of education?
Yeah, so similar to Miss Debbie, I do think we're behind the 8 ball on how to, I don't want to say integrate, but I do think the brains of our kids are changing because of the access that they have to technology at a much younger age. And of course, research takes a long time to catch up to where we are. So right now we are still trying to do things that worked for previous generations that just simply do not work for the scholars we are currently serving. I just want more insight into the impacts of technology on the brain from a very young age. Because I feel like that is what is going to help us reach our kids where they are and meet them where they are, but we just don't have all the answers. So there's a lot of trial and error. What engaged us in school, the kids do not care about that anymore, right? So back in the day, it might have been extra recess or what did we used to enjoy? An ice cream party. But now they're like, can I bring my iPad? I'll work really hard if you let me get on my iPad. Or can I do, just like they have so many other things, even talking about social media. They want to make TikToks with you. They want to make videos. They want to do all these things that my brain, and I'm not even that old, but I'm like, why is that fun? You get what I'm saying? I'm like, right. I'm like, can we, do you want to go outside? No, I want to take my iPad out of my book bag. So honestly, that is what keeps me up, because we're constantly at the table thinking about ways to engage our scholars, because their brain is different from ours. They are growing up in a different era with access to different things. And also they get a lot more information, like even during the election cycle.
Quickly.
When I was a kid, I'm like, I know who my mama voting for, maybe, but
they knew.
They're invested.
They knew all the things, and like some of the things they were saying, I was like, you should not know that. But I hope somebody out there is investing the money and the time to run longitudinal studies to understand how the brain is changing and what do educators need to do to meet the needs of the scholars. Are we adding a different subject area? Should not just keyboarding, because that's what we had typing class, but should like technology safety, should that be a standard? Or are we teaching, is coding, should everybody know how to code? You know, just like what things do we need to do to catch up with the times? Because in that sense, I do feel like education is a little behind.
No, that's a great point. And before we get into like, we talked about solutions, but I do want to ask, you know, so we talked about some of the hardship, the struggles, but what are some things that you see that are working well, that's giving you hope for, you know, this generation of kids that y'all are dealing with right now?
Well,
I think, Dorojen, you should start, because I think you're at the more junior part of your career. And I think you probably have that insight with like a fresh mind coming in, and like, you know, the kids are young. So what are your thoughts?
Can you say the question one more time?
Yeah, what's giving you hope right now in education, essentially?
What is giving me hope? The kids are inquisitive. They ask a lot of questions. They want to learn. They want to know things, right? So that's how you start, right? That's how you build on. So they're still very much sponges, and they're loving school. There's just a different way to reach them. So I will say that they're still, you know, they want to know all the things, except now we didn't have Google. We might have had to go to the library or pull out the encyclopedia. They can just ask AI or what have you, but they still come to us with those questions, and that those are like teachable moments. So I'll give that piece. That gives me hope.
Yes. No, I love that. And I did see that when I went to the 3rd to 5th grade classes. They knew, like we just said, just so much, and just asking so many questions. They were teaching me about copyright laws, and I'm like, y'all are 9 years old and know so much. So I definitely appreciate that answer.
What gives me hope is where we are with reading. And Dorojen and I talked about that again off camera. The science of reading, you know, that's what everyone is talking about now, the science of reading, the science of reading. We are wired to communicate. We are not wired to read. And so what it takes to be able to teach children to read is a systematic, the explicit teaching of phonics, phonological awareness, phonemic awareness, to be able to teach children to read. And we all know that reading opens all sorts of doors and opportunities for children. Literacy is so important. And so the work that we're doing in our state right now with making sure that students are on track for reading by 3rd grade, I'm proud of that work that we're doing. I'm excited about it. And, you know, we've been doing some groundwork at my school for the last couple of years, and talking to Dorojen, they are doing some great work at her school. And I believe that within the next couple of years, we're really going to start seeing the fruits of our labor. Like, you know, we had some catching up to do after COVID. And so I feel that we're in a good place right now with getting kids on track. And so I feel really good about that. And it gives me hope, because we want kids to be able to read.
Congratulations.
Sky's the limit.
That's amazing. I love it, because it's kind of a callback to the episode of you're really making sure that there's no child left behind. I love that. You also said something that I think segues nicely into our next point. You mentioned that we're wired for communication. And I think that that is so, because that is a subset of another thing that we're wired for, which is community. I don't think that we are born on this earth to be alone and to walk through life on our own merit and our own perspective. Like, even today in hosting this discussion, like, we've learned so much. I'm sure that we've healed so much, you know, like, we've been able to kind of just put everything on the table. And so I kind of want to segue into the point of community, in realizing it takes a village to raise kids and to train them up in the way that they should go, and to get them on the right beating path, whether that's through education, whether that's through the fun, you know, cool aunties, or, you know, a coach, you know, just anybody that might have come into your life and been impactful at a certain time. And so I want to ask you guys, because again, I think you've seen some shifts probably in the times and generational shifts of, what parental support looks like paired with educational support, what community support looks like. And so I want to ask you all, where do you all place value in the community for your scholars and for the children that you all serve as educators? And I guess in more generally, what should the call of action be for children right now for their community? So whether that is the aunties, whether that is other educators, whether that is their parents, as an educator, I guess we need to have this conversation be bi-directional.
Right.
What do people need to be doing to support you and ultimately be supporting the generation of kids right now?
Read to your children. Please.
Okay. Reading is fundamental.
Read to your children.
Yes. Okay.
Like, yes. Oh my goodness. Like, as you were speaking, I was like, read to your kids, talk to your kids, do activities with your kids, and be involved in your kids' school. Learning does not happen, 7.5 hours school day?
Right.
That can't be the only time kids are learning, that they're engaged, right? So I have 20, I stopped counting the months. He'll be 2 in May. I have a baby, he's turning 2 in May, and it's like we're already enrolled in a challenge to read 1,000 books before kindergarten. But I'm an educator, so I have like insights on what it is that like the child brain needs. But so many times when we see gaps, it's like conversation can close those gaps. Reading a book and asking questions can close those gaps. Having a conversation with your niece, nephew, who if you're a mentor to a kid, just like talking to them, you know what I'm saying? With the introduction of the iPads, right? Go on your iPad. Yeah. No, they need to see your lips moving. They need to, they need all those things. Technology is a tool, but it does not teach them everything. So how, to your question, how can what do we need from families, what do we need from community? Get your kids out in the community, show them how to be of service to their community, right? Let them see you helping others, picking up trash, doing a community event, read to your kids 20 minutes a day. I know some people have busy lives. You are working, trying to provide, but they can't just be on that phone or on the iPad all day. Allow them to experience things, right? Yes, you can watch a YouTube video about the zoo, but it's not a substitute for going to the zoo. And there's even free things, right? If you cannot afford to go to the zoo, go to your public library. They have free passes for you to go to puppetry arts or for you to do these things. There are ways to expose your kids, but exposure, conversation, reading books, engaging in the community, I think that is, and engaging with your school community too, right? So don't just send your kids to school. Go talk to their teacher. Right. Come to the parent-teacher conference. Join the PTA, volunteer. If there is an activity, show up. It means so much to your kids to see your faces. Like that makes a kid's whole school year. Even if you come once, they talk about, I remember that time my dad came and he read a book to the class, or it was their birthday and you bought like a 25-cent balloon from Publix. You get what I'm saying? It makes all the difference. So what we need from community, please show up. Like, even if you're not a parent, if, like you were saying, getting involved with businesses, a child seeing somebody in their community who owns the restaurant that they go to all the time, but they have no clue what goes behind that. Like, come and talk to the kids. Like, hey, I own the corner store that you walk into every day and get XYZ, or I own this restaurant. I own this clinic. They're like, oh, wow. And you came from this same community? You can do it too. It's that simple. Partner with your schools. If you are not a parent, if you are a parent, show up. Help. Whatever skill you have, it's useful. And even if you come in staple papers, it makes a world of difference. So I'll pass it on to those faces.
I don't have one thing to add to that. I think she summarized that very well. I agree with everything that you said. It's beautiful.
And I would say I have a couple of things. I think I really appreciate you really putting the onus on the adults.
Right.
Because I think for me, and not to get too deep into it, but I think I have a firsthand account of being parentified and adultified very early on. And I think that's something that, like, I would say as someone just in the community, you know, I don't have any kids, I'm not an educator, but my thing would be, you're the adult. And it's up to you to be the guide for these children and understanding. And I guess to backtrack some, I do have a minor in child and family development. So to your point, Dorojen, I didn't even know that like certain developmental things were happening at ages like 0 to 3 months, and then from 6 to what, you know, I don't have kids, so I never picked up that book. And I know that there are some people who are parents who are just like, well, I have a baby and I'm going to know how to be a mom or a dad when the child gets here, and we'll figure it out. But I do think that there is something about the intentionality of people who go and kind of do their research, like you said, of like, what's out there? What are the resources? What do I need to know to be the most robust parent or the most comprehensive supporter for this child, because they didn't ask to be here or in the conditions that we're placing upon them. And I just think to that point, the more that we can do on our end as adults to help set them up for success, the better off that they'll be. Whether that's through direct contact of like, hey, I'm your mom and I'm setting a schedule for you and I'm putting you in these extracurriculars and getting you tutoring, or if it is just by influence and impact of we are, you know, I like to think that we're doing well in our big girl jobs. But we both go to schools and do workshops and formal mentoring with students. And I think that that's just so important because, to your point, and like we've been saying, it's kind of the mantra of this conversation of children are our future. So who's going to be the next teacher that comes behind when we're out of our seats, or who's going to be the next person to run? I live in New York now, so like who's going to be running the bodega? You know, like and it's big and important for, like, to your point, Dorojen, for people to see it, to know that it's possible. But also, we talked about not taking traditional tracks. So if school's not your thing, you still got to know the lay of the land for how to run a store and how to buy inventory and, you know, customer service skills of, I don't want the person that told me just leave. I want the Chick-fil-A experience of my pleasure. So I really appreciate both of you sharing and your time. And I don't know, I just feel really good and empowered from this.
I was about to say, I almost feel a duty to now advocate for just teachers in my area, because you all are not, like we talked about, from y'all are community advocates, y'all are truly building up our next generation. So this has really inspired me to want to just advocate for you all. I don't even have kids. But I know when I do, I know obviously I'm treating the teachers so super well and like making sure that y'all have everything y'all need and what I can do as a future parent. So this has been a very inspiring conversation, and I want to just have us do like a little quick takeaway. So if listeners could walk away with just one thing from each of you, what would it be?
Yeah, what's your parting advice?
Yes,
what's your mic drop?
For me, as an educator and as a building leader, it's important for me to create an environment, first of all, a happy environment, a warm, welcoming environment where kids feel welcome, where parents feel welcome to come in and support their children. It's a partnership. You said it earlier. It takes a village. It absolutely does. We can't do what we do without the support from parents. You know, I tell them all the time, we're in this together. We are Team Amari or Team Bianca, Team Dorojen. So we can't do what we do without our parents, and we can't do it without our community members either. We need their support as well, because our kids are worth it. They are worth it.
That's amazing.
I echo everything Miss Debbie said. Get involved, advocate for kids, advocate for teachers, advocate for education. The current landscape is like, I don't know. We're waiting, right? However, we do not have time to just sit back and let things happen to us. So just be involved in your community, show up. If a school reaches out to you, they're reaching out because they need your help. So if you have the power and the capacity to help, please do, even if you don't have kids or you're your nephews, whoever, even if that's not your access to the school, but you're in the community, it does matter and mean the world for you all to just show up and partner alongside with us to make sure we are just loving on the kids. Even if you come in and you read a book and give out 20 hugs. You get what I'm saying? Like it makes a difference. So just partner with us, be an advocate for kids, for teachers, for education, and just continue to show up and help people understand how important the schools are, how public school is. So
because student success can look very different.
Yes.
It can look very different. And so whatever that success is for a child, we want to make it happen. Yes. And we can't do it by ourselves.
Yes. And you guys are making it happen. And so I guess I just want to say thank you all for what you shared with us today. But also for what you do every day. Because this is not easy work. I've said it several times, it's a labor of love, but it is impactful work, and it is meaningful work, and it is necessary work. Yes. And everybody is not crafted and capable to do it. So I commend you ladies. I thank you ladies. And in the spirit of community, I think I just want to, you guys have it's free promo, this is shameless plugs. How can we support you as a community, not just in the podcast landscape, but all of our listeners? If people want to connect with you or support you, what are ways that maybe they can find you or reach out to the school or donate or anything? Like, how do we stay connected?
I was going to give it I love.
You can always find us on our school website. Send a DM, get our numbers, our emails, however you are able to help. I'll say 99%. I don't know of a 1%, but 99% we are, excited for whatever help the community can offer us. So just reach out to your local school, a school that you might have a personal connection with, and say like, hey, I want to help out. And trust me, we will keep calling you. You said you wanted to help. Career Day is next week. Come read this book. Come staple some papers for me.
Bring your friends.
Bring your friends.
Bring your friends.
So if you reach out, I can guarantee you there will be ways for you to come and get involved and be a mentor. Find a kid. Sometimes parents have a harder time reaching their kid than another younger person or somebody from the community or somebody who they think is cool. Like I'm looking at our podcast producers. I'm like, come on down and show them these cameras. So
word to that. Special shout out to that. They love that.
So just reach out to your local school you have a connection with. Even if you don't have a connection, say I'm available on Tuesday from 1 to 3. We'll put you to work, and we will really, really appreciate you for your time.
I think different schools have different needs.
Yes.
And the school where I am now, I have such great parental support. So what I need and what we all need, I'm just going to ask for your prayers. I pray for the safety of our students and our staff. That's so important now. It's sad that that's something that we have to be concerned about.
Yes.
As educators, children shouldn't have to worry about those things, and neither should the adults that work in the building. But we just ask for your prayers, just to, that God would continue to cover us and keep us safe.
Amen.
Yes. That's a beautiful note to end on. That
Well,
was powerful.
yes.
Spiritual. Set the tone for the day. I love it.
Yes. Well, thank you both again.
Thank you.
Y'all's stories, both y'all are so inspiring, and I'm so happy we were able to get both of you on.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for coming and spending your time, because I know y'all are so busy throughout the week, and then so it's just thank you, and it's amazing for y'all to be here with us. So I will go ahead and close this out. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Standing on Business podcast. Please don't forget to follow us on standonbusiness.pod on Instagram, watch us on YouTube, and listen to us wherever you listen to podcasts. Bye.
Bye.